Doing well. It's Blair Dunkley and Trevor Tardif coming live at you with mind models as we do every Tuesday night and on the Blair Dunkley experience. So, how are you doing tonight, Trevor?
I'm doing pretty good.
That's great.
I'm glad to be here again.
Yeah.
I think
And we have some of our regular panelists with us. Jamie, Dwayne, and Rebecca is new. Well, I've actually seen her before, but she's newish as a panelist. So that's super. I'm glad you risked and jumped on here. Rebecca, it's just a great learning opportunity to come on as a panelist. So we try and pick people from the audience, as it were, or the other people listening in to just figure out what they can expect and to get a better quality learning experience on the Blair Dunkley experience. Okay. So on the Blair Dunkley experience, we help busy entrepreneurs looking to break through, make small shifts in thinking using mind models, which enable them to gain clarity needed to accomplish their goals faster and more easily. So that's the purpose. That's the focus. We're here to help you guys make those breakthroughs and get through to the other side of whatever it is you're doing in life or in business or whatever it is as quickly as possible. So mind models came to me as a needed thing. I used to be decades ago, so long ago that when I was talking to you, Jamie, I actually forgot. I got reminded. I used to teach mindset, 25 years ago plus.
Yeah, mine was about 20.
Yeah. And my goodness. Yeah, the story, the quick and dirty story here is my father wound up going into a coma. And I thought I had an unshakable mindset. I thought I could, just work at my beliefs of my mindset and everything would be great. And I was going pretty good for about 18 months or so with a really strong mindset. And I thought it was, like I said, unshakable. And then my dad went into a coma and that shook me up pretty badly. And I couldn't use everything that I was doing. It wasn't working for me anymore. And I was frustrated. I was hurt, mad, and angry at getting made a promise about how mindset is the thing that will get you unstuck and moving forward. And it didn't. I was also very, very fortunate that I had training as a life skills coach, and I was that identified 362 core competencies that I needed to be to cope, problem solve, and be successful in life. That was research done by the government of Canada. And back in the day, we just started for about 5 years, 6 years. We'd started life skills colleges, and I was noticing gaps, and I was already starting to do some research. And they were called points of clarity. And I realized that these points of clarity were really effective sometimes for leveraging me. Most of the time, I just needed to have a better model. And when mindset broke, I decided I wanted something that was identifiable, named and labeled, repeatable. That means I can do it over and over again and get similar results in that situation that I think it's appropriate to use it in, and duplicatable. In other words, I can move it, transfer that knowledge, that background to others. So identifiable, repeatable, and duplicatable. That's really what mind models are all about. So we've been teaching these for quite a few months now. Gosh, how long have we been doing this, Trevor? It's been a while. Not a full year.
But around with it in March.
Yeah, since March.
Wow.
So we're getting up there. And some of these people have been around. Jamie and Dwayne have been around since the summer. And so any comments on mind models and how you guys have used mind models? Jamie, Dwayne?
I'm another one that taught mindset way back in the day. And it just resonated with me. I've said that before, that this is just the steps that it takes to have a good mindset. This teaches you how. And so, and a good last week's was a really good one for me. And I knew all of it. But it just literally put it in a clear step pattern to where.
Well, that's sort of funny. It was called Getting Clear. So
getting clear. That's right.
Yep.
So, but yeah, so it really was so clear on how it was identifiable, repeatable, and duplicatable. And so it helped me, even in this week, get so much more done because I was up in the clouds and in the minutia and needed to get clear. And that really helped me do that and get things in order and get more done throughout this week. So I've probably gotten 10 times more done this week than I have in previous weeks because I focused on what was important instead of what my mind wanted to go off and do.
Super. Well, those of you that want to figure out how to get more productive and clearer, because really what it comes down to is the number one thing that I found with mindset is mindset doesn't necessarily get you clear. It gets you looking forward to a direction. And sometimes it gets you clear and sometimes it doesn't. And it's not always consistent, and it's not terribly reliable, like especially in crisis situations. It's better than nothing. Like, hey guys, if you can't figure out this stuff, fine, go for it. Because it's really good for a first step. But if you expect it to really get you to where you need to go, I really wouldn't count on it that much because it broke. It didn't work for me. I couldn't get it back. And by the way, since that time, since about 25 years ago, and figuring these things out, these mind models out, I have helped literally thousands of people who have had broken mindsets sort of figure out how to get past the breakage and identify, name, and label where they are, and then make it identifiable, repeatable, and duplicatable, and get success in their own life. So anyway, getting clear is last week's mind model. This week's mind model is ask versus tell. So we're going to move on to this week's mind model. You guys okay with that? Sounds good?
Sure.
Okay, awesome. So basically, when you use the mind model of ask versus tell, I'm just going to lay this out for you. Which is more powerful, asking or telling? So I'm going to pick on Rebecca first. So Rebecca, which is more powerful for you, asking or telling, in your opinion?
Asking.
Okay, what makes asking more powerful than telling?
I feel like when you're asking somebody, you're giving them a choice, so you're getting a better result instead of feeling like you're forced to do something. Like if you're telling I don't like to be told to do things at
right.
all. And so most people kind of have that resistance when you're in that scenario where don't tell me what to do. And so they kind of shut off part of what they're even listening to versus showing the interest in saying, hey, what do you think about this? Or how might this work for you? Or that scenario for me.
That's great. That's solid. That's very well said. So one of the pieces that makes asking more powerful than telling, does anybody understand the structure of what happens in your brain when you actually start figuring out asking versus telling?
Depends what you mean.
Well, okay. Well, ask away.
I mean, are we talking about the neuron level or?
Well, almost, but at the functional level of thinking. So what happens to a thought if I'm telling you stuff right now, do you have to necessarily pay attention to it?
No, matter of fact, I've always said that people don't argue with their own information. And so what happens is if you're asking somebody something, they're listening to what they're saying. If you're telling me something, I choose whether I'm going to listen or not.
Right. But if you're asking, what happens with the information?
Well, it has to go through, I would think, several places because you're dinging it around up there trying to come up with the answer.
Yeah, absolutely it does. So just 2 seconds here. I'm going to see if I can't make this work this time.
Your whiteboard?
Yeah, I'm going to play with this one more time here and just see what I can do and make my whiteboard come alive.
Okay, Trevor, you guys are going to have lessons on whiteboard, bringing up whiteboard.
Really.
That's Blair's problem. What do you need to do about that, Blair?
Yeah, really. What might I need to do about that? Well, I need to go about and find my Zoom link, which is now here. And then that's it there. Only thing, I'm going to go back here and, well, I need to blow that one up, but that's not there. So
right now you're just sharing your whole screen.
Yeah, I noticed that.
Okay.
You could just blow up. Like, what are you trying to? Are you trying to show the point of clarity, or?
Yeah, I'm not actually trying to do that, unfortunately. So I picked the wrong screen to share, and it's sharing everything.
You have to go stop. You have to go back into Zoom and press stop share, or look for the little bar and press stop share. I won't be able to see it on your screen because it gets hidden.
Yeah, well,
the Zoom bar.
Zoom, zoom, zoom.
No, not
video.
Okay.
And then try this one more time here.
But your top bar looked like mine. 400 things open.
There we go. Mm-hmm. That should work.
Yeah, you got it.
Good. Okay. There we go. That's the one that I wanted. This took me forever. Okay, cool. So right here, ask me a question, any question at all.
What happens? What happens to your mind? What happens to your mind when you ask a question?
Orange. Answer is orange. Crazy answer, right?
Mm-hmm.
How do you now? Quick question: did that answer of orange land inside the box or outside of the box? Dwayne.
Outside the box.
Outside of the box. Okay. So if it's outside of the box, how do you know it's outside of the box?
Because it didn't fit the parameters of the question.
Very warm, very, well, verging on hot. How else could you describe it? What does a question do?
Presents a set of values.
No, it doesn't do values necessarily. What does it present?
Images?
No, not really images, because we got to make it universal for everything. I can't say that it won't present values, it won't present images. It's just that it can do a lot more other than that. So what makes us know that the outside of the box stuff is outside of the box? Rebecca,
it doesn't make sense.
Go ahead, Jamie. Sorry.
It doesn't make sense.
How do you know it doesn't make sense? You're right. It doesn't make sense.
I'm just trying to.
What doesn't fit?
Yeah. I'm trying to figure out that it's like I don't know, the hairs on the back of my neck go up. I don't know what this feeling is.
Sure. So
something just ain't right.
Yeah, something just ain't right. Yeah, I got it. So the square every time you, sorry, Dwayne?
The square peg is not fitting into the round hole.
Absolutely. So if you are paying attention here, what you'll notice is that every single time you ask a question, By simply asking the question, you've defined all of the possible answers have to fall within that question. So that question creates a box. And all possible answers that are reasonable, rational, not crazy answers like orange. Orange doesn't fit in that box. Okay, that's not a reasonable answer. But all possible answers have to fit in to that area that is described by the question. The area is information, and it all has to be relevant and reasonable to that question that has been asked. That's a pretty powerful thing if you stop and think about it. Like, you get to influence, you could even argue control somebody else's mind simply by asking a question, because you can't not think about it. Human beings are literally hardwired to recognize that question, figure out that possible answer, and then answer it in something other than that answer if they're going to be misleading or disruptive or whatever. Like I was, I have to be able to jump outside or have a pre-planned answer, which I actually will raise my hand and say, I already did. Orange is my usual go-to answer. And it was because Rebecca's here tonight and her shirt looks a little orangey to me. So it reminded, yes, yeah, no excuses, dark yellow, slightly orangey look. So yes, that's where it was. It made sense to me. So I take a look at that, and it manages the mind to go in here. So here's a thought experiment that has been tested in psychology numerous times. And it's basically a simple one. Don't think of a white horse. So in order to not think about a white horse, you have to put a white horse in your mind and then erase it. And almost nobody, and they've done this with fMRIs, and quite a lot of neurological study has gone into this, and you can get it down to a fraction of a second before you erase it, which barely moves it into the conscious, but it still is near conscious, or you're sort of aware of it being there, and then you've removed it. And they now know that that's how the brain operates. It just does. You have to have it to remove it so that you don't think of a white horse. Fine. I wasn't thinking of a white horse. Now I'm talking about a white horse, and I can't stop talking about it, but I'm not supposed to be. Well, that's because the brain is hardwired to be able to organize the structure of information that way. So the power of the question actually defines those parameters, and all answers have to quite literally fall within that box in that area somewhere. So that is a particularly powerful tool of being able to know how questions operate. So I'm just going to read you a little something about the point of the mind model here. Asking effective questions is the most powerful way to get the best results from people. Asking is the key to move people to understanding results, behaviors, or the tasks required. Now, if we're going to use this as a coaching tool, this coaching technique requires you to ask questions even if you know or think you know the answer. Now, how come you would ask a question even if you know or think you know the answer when you're trying to assist somebody else? Dwayne.
Well, you're trying to assess where they are in the exact perimeter, I'm assuming.
Well, you're basically, you're asking a question, or you're stating an answer that lies within that boundary. Okay. It is somewhere in there. Rebecca, do you have anything that you could add to refine that?
Well,
how come you would ask? I'll just re-ask the question if that's okay with you. So how come you would sort of bite your tongue and instead of telling somebody something, you would ask the question, and even if you know or think you know the answer? How come you'd ask the question?
Because you need them to come to the conclusion themselves. They need to focus in on it and be able to work through it in their own mind so that they allow that information to enter into the box, so they're not deflecting and not having a that turn off moment. Like, you're telling them the information, you don't absorb it as well. It's not something that's sinking in and they can't get resourceful.
Bingo. That's spot on. That's you used one of the keywords that I look for here, and that is resourceful. So resourcefulness only occurs when I connect my brain up to the information. And if I know or think I know the answer, that's great. But if I want to help somebody connect their brain up to that resourceful state, the only way that I can do that is actually by asking them questions that allow them to get closer and closer and closer to that information. And what happened there is you gave two partial answers in there to my one question, but with Dwayne's answer, bringing it in tighter, and then I re-asked the question and your answer brought it in even tighter. And then you were able to really start nailing down that box and get it. So yeah, you nailed it with resourceful state, because that's what it comes down to. See, everything that I wound up doing in building mind models was focused not on getting an answer. I started noticing how fast the world was changing, information was changing, and people were not coping well, especially the clients we were having at life skills colleges were not coping well with the speed of change. So how people assumed life should be and where they were at and their coping skills and success skills and how their mindset was focused on a belief. Beliefs are past focused. They're not present. You do a set of things and you believe yourself to be a certain way. And mindset is past focused. It's not present focused. It's past focused based on what you've already done. But
repeat that. Let me get that.
Mindset is past focused. Mindset is based on what you've already done because you've generated a belief about yourself, because mindset is inherently a belief system. Like it's not an action system, it's a belief system. Even if you believe you can take excellent actions, the action part is not actually the belief part, it's the action part. And that's where keeping it alive and well and moving forward works really well. But if you're trying to rely on the belief part of it to move forward, I'm believing I'm excellent, then all you have to have is one huge failure in your life where you're no longer excellent and your house of cards comes quickly tumbling down because you probably haven't evaluated, you've been judging yourself and telling yourself that you're excellent and, puffing yourself up, not unnecessarily, but ineffectively. And that creates a unsustainable model that is fracturable. It's not necessarily broken, but it can break. It's a fragile model is the best way to describe mindset.
May I ask a question?
Yeah, please.
What is the basis behind the fact that the brain cannot think on two separate things at the same time?
Well, that model is actually not actually accurate. It can, but it can't talk about those simultaneously. We have one source of output. It's called our mouth and language. So we have to talk about it. We have to have one stream at a time. But there is proof large amounts of proof that you can process multiple things simultaneously. So that's not fully accurate. It's not inaccurate because we can only describe one thing at a time. So, and the whole experiment of rubbing your tummy and patting your head, It means that we can do two things at one time. And I can talk and I can walk and talk and chew bubble gum and, and do a whole bunch of different things. So that is not fully accurate. But I can't talk about two different things at the same moment. So I have to select a priority. And that prioritization is really, really critical because it also helps me organize my thoughts and creates priorities in my own mind. Does that answer your question?
Yes.
Okay, cool. Okay. So the next thing that I want to do is the process of questioning is really important because it builds understanding and motivation within ourselves. And it's very important for us to use like you just used, Dwayne, what kind of question did you use to interrupt me? What did you say? Do you mind?
I asked a question.
Yeah, you did. What question did you ask of me? Do you mind?
Do you mind? No.
Yes, it was. Do you mind? No, it was, do you mind if I ask you a question, Blair?
Right.
Okay. So that question, although doesn't have a who, what, when, why, or how in it, it has an implied question concept in there. And that question concept is a what? Because you want to know information in the present. You want to know a list of one or more things or events. That's part of the informational structure. Anyway, that is another topic, but I just wanted to let you know that it's also present tense, and questions that keep people in the present are far more effective than past-based or future-based questions, for the most part, in general terms. Okay, because we can't change the past, and we can't change the future now. We can only adjust our trajectory in the moment so that we can actually transform our life from this moment forward in a new direction. Hence, learning mind models helps. Okay, so it also starts off with us knowing ourselves, and our who is us. We need to be prepared to ask ourselves questions. And that happens to be a particularly powerful way of shifting ourselves when we ask ourselves, so what might I do differently? And we've covered that off in an earlier mind model and shared quite a bit of that. So you guys can find that in our repertoire of mind models if you join our Facebook group.
Is that in the three magic words?
The three magic words.
It's right there in three magic words. Yes.
I like that one too.
Yeah, well done, Jamie. So, and then we can start also taking a look at when and where, because when and where are questions that actually seek commitment. So, and if we're not seeking a when or a where of ourselves or of others, we're basically BSing ourselves that we're planning on doing it sometime in the future, but we're not committing to ourselves when or where it will be done. And we need both. So, especially for
goal.
Sorry?
A goal.
Yeah, / result. If you want to be effective, you want to go after results. If you want to be ineffective, keep it as a goal. Okay. And you've just lost about 60% probability that you'll actually achieve it if you hold it as a goal. And you'll increase it to about 70, 80%, even 90% if you keep it as a result.
I use that, by the way. Somebody asked a question. On Darren Daly. I can tell you exactly where it was. And He was talking about goals. And so at the bottom, you're supposed to put, what goals, and everybody was listing all these goals. And I just made a comment that said, hey, you might want to try changing the word goal to result. And then did your little spiel. So yeah, it was on Darren Daly this morning.
And you're going in there and messing with their minds and screwing them up.
I messed this whole talk up.
Yeah, you did. Yeah. Sorry, but that's very highly effective. Be disruptive. I love it.
And that was me.
Was that on the South Park video?
Sorry?
My Darren Daily this morning was the marketing lessons from South Park.
Oh, no,
really?
You're way behind.
Or ahead.
Or ahead, that's right.
Yeah, or ahead, whatever.
Sorry,
Anyway.
I didn't mean to interrupt. I just remembered that. So, yeah.
Yeah. So, Rebecca, when you were describing right off in the beginning of this about telling and what causes telling to be less effective, I really want to, it jarred me and I thought, you know what, telling somebody what to do, and you literally said, I don't like being told what to do. Okay.
No.
Well, I don't know of a better example live here on the show of I don't like being told what to do. So is your motivation higher or lower when somebody tells you what to do?
It depends. If my motivation is to prove them wrong, then it's higher. But if it's to comply with what they're
to prove them wrong, it's not about what they're telling you. You've now flipped the whole tell thing around to prove your model, which is there. So does that make you more or less compliant when somebody tells you what to do?
Less
compliant. So would you say that your motivation went up or down? With their desired direction that they want to go in?
With their request of me or their direction?
Yeah, with their request of you.
And it doesn't matter if it's something that I know that I ought to be doing or, that it's quid pro quo. There's always that resistance just a little bit. I think with everybody. Like I see it with my kids all the time. If I ask my daughter to do something worth telling her to do something, there's a completely opposite response to that. And she's just like her mom. So she doesn't like to be told what to do either.
Yeah, exactly.
We are a sociopathic society.
Absolutely. But we are also a very caring society if we structure our conversations effectively and appropriately. And that is what we're attempting to do here, is find those literally the mind models that allow us to become empathetic, understanding, and effective. So it's powerful what we can do with mind models. So telling lowers motivation. Unfortunately, we often tell others either directly or indirectly what to do or how to do it. Telling does not engage others in gaining a meaningful understanding of the results, processes, or the tasks required to be done in that moment. So basically, it is, and I've seen this all over business as a management consultant. People would go out and say, I don't have time to ask questions here. I got to go out and do all this stuff. And a relatively quick story here is Robert, fairly substantial client of mine, was a manager and trying to get a production manager, and they were going to be changing over the production of something, a part in the production line that was known to be on its last legs. And if they shut down, it can cost them $60,000 a shift. Okay. It's not small change. And anyway, Robert wound up going in there and saying, I was coaching him at the time, and he said, I got to go out and tell the people what they need done for this new thing. And I said, do you mind if I tag along? I said, sure. He said, sure. And we went out. He got up, called everybody around, took about 5 minutes, and then he just told everybody exactly what he wanted them to do. And then he asked one question at the end and said, you guys got it? And what would people respond? What would you see if you were standing up there in Robert's shoes? You would see this. A lot of people nodding their head yes. How come? So, Rebecca, how come? What would cause you to shake your head yes, even though you just got told what to do? and you may or may not have understood it.
Because that's what's expected.
Yes. That's your
to give.
Sorry, say again. You're a little hard to hear.
It's the expected response you're supposed to give.
Yes, it is.
It's compliant. It's saying, okay, you've told me, now I'm going to do what you said. And a lot of times in the situations, asking the questions to clarify is not appropriate or acceptable in that scenario. And so you just say, I didn't understand that, it's over my head, but I'm going to do what you said.
Yeah. And it's over your head. And even though it's over your head, you still don't clarify because the culture is not allowing you to go ahead and clarify. So it's pretty dramatic in those scenarios. So anyway, came back a week later and asked Robert, so how's that issue that we did? Was the problem fixed? He said, no, I got to go out there and talk to them again. Thanks for reminding me. I said, do you mind if I tag along? And he said, come on, because I'm going to rip some new body parts here. And so he was pissed off. And now he's yelling and screaming at them for another 5 to 7 minutes. And well, actually, it was more like 10 minutes, actually. He was screaming at them. And do you guys get it? We got to get this done. Do you? And then, yes, just like you guys are nodding your head, you're starting to go, yeah, okay. And he walks away. He said, there, it's fixed. And so I go, oh, okay, that's interesting. Let's see if it actually happens. Okay. And he said, what, you want to bet? And I said, well, I don't feel like taking your money, but yeah, I'll be back next week and we'll just see what happens. And sure enough, I'm back next week. So this is now 3 weeks later, and 15 minutes of him trying to do it fast with an hour, with 3 weeks and 15 minutes of time consumed. And I said, okay, Robert, do you mind if I take 15 to 20 minutes and, work it through with everybody? He said, Blair, you're not an engineer. You don't have the rapport with those people. You don't know what you're doing here. And I said, Robert, you're absolutely right. I don't know what I'm doing. They do. Number one. Number two, I'm not an engineer. And just watch what I do. And if I'm doing anything that is contrary to any engineering principle, I give you full permission to stop me in my tracks. And he said, okay, fine, done. So I walk in there. Robert pulls everybody together. And then he turns the floor over to me. And all I did was start asking questions. So do you guys know what Robert has been asking for the last 3 weeks? Yes. I then turn around and say, what was it? And the repair and maintenance manager spoke up and said, blah, 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 it's this. And we got to take this part of the steam cure oven and replace it with this newer part. So it's faster, it's better, it's stronger, whatever. And I said, great. And what's the issue with that? And he broke it out and said, well, we haven't got the part in yet. Where Robert turned beet red and was like literally wanting to explode and burst in and said, how come? And our repair and maintenance manager said, well, the PO office where we have to go is right beside yours. And I thought you would be walking over there to ask the person to put in the PO because it's right next to your office. And Robert said, it's not my job to manage all of the details here. That famous line, it's not my job. And I said, so what might you do differently right now? And the R&M manager said, well, excuse me, I'm going to go and put in that PO right now. Excellent. So who's the second in charge of when the repair maintenance manager isn't there? He put his hand up. And who's your person that supports you? He put his hand up. And where do the rest of you guys fit? Well, we work the line and we have to do all this other stuff. Great. So what's the second in charge going to do right now? Well, we can actually task everybody to get ready for that new part when it comes in and get it in, out and done in like 3 hours. Amazing. So what's the plan and when do you need to make it? They said, well, we could do that right now since the repair and maintenance manager is off putting in the PO to get the part, and we can do that right now. Excellent. So do you mind doing that right now, like right now while I'm standing here? They said, sure. And how long will that take? I don't know, 3 minutes? It's not tough. Great. So who do you need on your team? Well, Joe, John, Bob, Bill, whatever. I think it was like 4 people needed it. And they got back in, and sure enough, they had it done in like under 5 minutes. They had a plan in place. They knew what they were going to do. The R&M manager said, and now since the R&M manager is back, what would you like to say to him? And they looked at me and said, I don't know. And I said, would somebody care to fill in the repair and maintenance manager on your plan? Oh, a plan. Oh my God, it's amazing. We actually have a plan. And that plan is crazy, that we will now, be able to deal with that problem almost instantaneously. And so in 24 hours, plus my 20 minutes of asking and talking and doing that, everything got done, as opposed to 3 weeks actually, and 15 minutes. So I just explained that to Robert. You might want to ask questions so that people get clear, as opposed to telling people what to do and trying to do it faster, and it cost you a lot longer than it did for that 20 minutes. And one of the rules of thumb that I use with ask versus tell: slow things down to speed things up. That's sort of the rule of thumb that I always do with ask versus tell. If you ask people, it seems like you're slowing it down, but you're really not. You're speeding it up 9 times out of 10. Okay, hopefully that story works for you.
No, that's great.
Okay,
and they also had a buy-in because it was their plan.
Totally, like in a massive way. I don't want to go into all the other stuff there, because there was a whole lot of things that I was doing. Like I was doing alignment by asking questions and doing that whole thing. And
I imagine you weren't angry and condescending when you were asking questions either.
No, I wasn't. So thanks, Pamela. Totally going to use it. Great story. Thanks. Charles, intimidation, fear of looking unfit. Absolutely. For those people, like, that's what happens, is all of that stuff kicks in a massive way. And anyway, we can get around all of that intimidation just by asking questions and seeing what's going on. And it speeds things up so fast with that. And that's the difference. So ask versus tell. It's a powerful tool that you can really, really start making some changes with. Now, the funny thing here is, as good as ask versus tell works on others, it can actually work on yourself too. So you can start asking yourself questions and get that clarity that you're looking for. And it pairs so nicely with last week's mind model of getting clear. So clear, which just in short here, is connected to results for the C, the L in clear, and it's basically an acronym. So clear is connected to results for the C. The L is list of next steps. The E is effective. The A is action-oriented, and the R is results. So that's how you get clear, and asking is the way to do it faster and more effectively.
Charlie had a good question there. How do you ask questions you know the answer to? And I'd respond by saying, I'm assuming you're talking about asking other people questions you know the answer to. It's literally as simple as asking the question, if that's what you meant, Charlie.
Yeah, because earlier on, Charlie, I don't know if you were on, but you have to ask questions even if you know or think you know the answer, because it's critical to get the information from other people so that they feel involved. Even if you know the answer and you think you know what's going on, I still turn around and ask the question and come from a place of being curious.
Which you're not influencing them if you even if you know what they're going to say. or you think you know what they're going to say, as Blair mentioned, you're not going to influence them as effectively if you don't say anything or if you just make a statement about it.
Right. And you say I don't want to lead the witness. Well, that's fine. And next week's mind model is really about not leading the witness. It's about, moving forward here. So, yeah,
if we're here next week, right?
Yeah, right. Oh, yeah. I'm on the road a bit, and I'm in a 108-mile house, and I don't know if I'm going to have reliable internet up there. It's in northern British Columbia. And so I'm going away for Canadian Thanksgiving to my in-laws next week, and I love them dearly, and I will try. But, Trevor will know in advance and send out a notice one way or the other. You're not going anywhere. Are you, Trevor?
On Tuesday? No, I'll be here.
Yeah, cool. So you guys will get notification that I either can or cannot do it. I'll take my computer and my iPad so I can try and do the things that I need to do to go live with you guys. I'll do my best, but if it's just not doable, it's unfortunately not doable. So relationships are important.
Did you guys have any?
Go ahead, Trevor.
No, go ahead.
Dwayne?
I was going to say that this past week I got to actually put into action something that I've learned here in a business that was telling me that they keep making the same mistake over and over and over. And I said, did you label that mistake? Did you identify it and label it? Well, no. And I said, well, that's why you keep making that same mistake over and over and over.
Good for you.
So we'll see.
Yeah, because that simple act of naming and labeling, which is one of our earlier mind models that we already talked about, naming and labeling is so freaking powerful. It's unbelievable. And that I have used that thousands of times in my business consulting. So well done on you, Dwayne. Good job.
I kind of laughed to myself because I said, oh, wow, Blair's talking to us about this. I can actually know the answer.
Yeah. And you know how to intercede and help people without even knowing necessarily any content about their problem specifically.
Correct.
So that's a very wildly powerful tool, because when you can use a mind model, and that's the power of mind models, is you don't need to know the specific content because you have a process model to help people solve their own problems.
Yeah.
And mindset does not do that.
Nope.
I'm sorry, but it never did. And mind models are built on doing that. Putting a mind model in place where it's identifiable, repeatable, and duplicatable, and you practice these things. And there's not 1,000 of them. There's over 100, but it's mostly common sense pieces and putting them into place. Hey, I just glanced over at the attendees. Hey, Colin Paul was a person that used to work for me years ago. And J.R. Noble is back, and April Chang is here today. So a lot of names I'm seeing and appreciating here. So hi, guys. Appreciate you guys coming. So we're going to wrap up this part of the presentation here. And hey, JR. Yep. So we're going to pick one person to do a profile if somebody wants to be profiled. He does. Rebecca. Okay. So that's your hubby there?
That's my husband, Tim. Yep.
That's Tim?
Yes.
Yeah.
He's
Hi, Blair.
Cool. Okay. So if you want to move, what was your takeaway, Jamie and Dwayne and Rebecca? What was your takeaway from today?
People don't like being told what to do.
Yep.
Because it makes them less effective, less engaging.
And on the ask side, what did you find out about asking?
That it's more powerful, that it allows you to get to resourcefulness, a quicker path to resourcefulness.
Nice. Well done. Jamie,
I
any take?
Yeah, I like the what you said, ask to slow things down to speed things up.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I can't tell you how many times I just go back to that.
Yeah, it makes total sense.
Yeah, it does. Yep. Rebecca, any takeaways for you?
Yeah, the comment that you made about your questions actually being able to influence people's minds was very powerful for me, just because that, I mean, you're going to talk about, you said leading the witness, but really able to dig deep into somebody's, issues and things like that to get them resourceful, and really having that influence to do that was like my key takeaway. I think of that. They just hit me of how powerful the questions can be and why they need
huge.
The importance of how effective they need to be, like on from your end, like learning how to ask them effectively because of what it can do, what it does do.
Yes, absolutely. At some point, I'm going to be offering a training on question concepts. So that is not ever going to actually be given away as part of the free stuff. I'm sorry, but I have my limits because it's a ton of years of specific research, and it's something that is highly, highly valuable.
Do you know when you're going to do that?
That would be part of the mind model coach training, wouldn't it?
Yeah, it will be in the mind model coach training for sure. Yeah. So, we're modifying. We're working on our site to take down names of people that are interested in signing up for the mind model coach training. That's going to happen next year. So that's going to happen. Yep, I know we've got volunteers already.
Are you still on track till March?
Yeah, we still are, basically. Yeah, that's about when it's likely going to be. Trevor and I are going to carve out dates. Probably, unfortunately, this week is very full, and then I'm traveling for 2 weeks with a half a week for myself and a week and a half for business. And so, but I'm down in Denver for a good chunk of time, and then back. And then once I'm back from Denver, we'll sit down and we'll hammer out those dates. So by mid-October to late October, we'll have dates, and it will be next year. So, and those people that would like to do it, it's going to be very limited. Probably keeping it down to no more than 20 participants max, and that's it. So I want to give quality and personal hands-on time to each person there. So, okay. So with that, Tim Paul has raised his hand. Colin, were you wanting to be? Tim actually raised his hand physically. I saw his hand go up in the background. So, and I'm sorry, I'm tightening this up. I'm not spending 3 hours on calls. Hey, Colin, if you get on early next time, and just if people want to be profiled, just jump on early and tell me, and you'll be picked on, okay, or picked for profiling sooner. So, Colin, I'd love it if you would jump on next, in 2 weeks or whatever. I'm on next for real. Yeah, it'll happen. Okay. So, Trevor, if you want to move Jamie and Dwayne back to attendee mode, see you next week or as soon as available.
All right, there you go.
Thank you. And Tim, how are you?
Good. How are you, Blair?
I'm doing awesome. I really am. It's been fun. So, fill me in a little bit about yourself and what you would like to be profiled on.
Okay. Well, first of all, for a living, I drive a commercial vehicle. With my wife, we started NES back at the beginning of this year. NES, but EMP. With that, we were first introduced to you at NES 9. And ever since then, it's a little rough for me to be able to get on and watch during the week just because the kids and my work schedule. But I always catch the replays and stuff, and I'm extremely interested in the mind models and how, in particular, they've helped me. So,
nice. And so, how have they helped you?
Well, without giving too much away, let's see here. Well, basically just the getting myself resourceful, I guess, out of my own head, because
and say no more. You know what? You're right. You're going to go in a direction that I can profile way too easily, and it won't be very entertaining then for yourself or anybody else for that matter. It'll be. Of course, he knew that. He just told him. So, what would you like to be profiled on? Oh, hobbies. What hobbies do you do?
Well, I enjoy water sports, wakeboarding, boating in general, camping, hiking.
Cool. Got it.
Of course. Yep.
Yep. Okay, cool. What would you like to be profiled on?
Well, I guess my well, I don't know, personal, myself. Yeah. I don't know.
What do you mean personal? Like, okay, so I can start with some of the stuff because you started inferring it, but you are definitely in transition. You've been looking for transition for actually quite some time. And, you know, the better part of over a year, but seriously, for the last 6 months to 9 months, you've been really needing almost to find something that you can feel more fulfilled with, for lack of a better word. I think fulfillment is a big part of it. You're good enough at what you do right now, but it's not overly challenging or getting you the kind of life you really want to have. You're going after stuff that you can be more in control of your own destiny rather than, well, you're trying to break out of the time wage mentality. That's a little bit of the issue that I would take a look at there, Tim, is I would start going, I know you've bought the course, Rewiring the Mind for Wealth, and I would make sure that you review the area on time wage versus value-based thinking, because there is some shifting that's going on there, and you are starting to get elements of that. But I'd really, both in the manual and back in the video, I'd pay particular attention to that, because as you're moving forward, you're still having language patterns of much less. I got to give you credit for the language pattern. It sounds to me like there is a lot of improvement that you've been doing in the last 3 months-ish in terms of shifting yourself and making those shifts more and more consistent and permanent. And the self-evaluation versus judgment is a big one. It's flip-flopping still. It's not locked in, but it's dramatically improved. Okay, it's a dramatic improvement from where it was, and I'm assuming Rebecca agrees because she's patting you on the back and going, "Yeah, it's an improvement." And you know, being as harsh on yourself and having that spin-off on people around you to some degree, and then internalizing it and beating yourself up was not highly effective. And you knew that. And so you wanted to find a new way of being. And those mind models are actually helping you find a new way of being without changing who you are. It's giving you the opportunity to find the better version of yourself and building on that dream of who you dream yourself to be is starting to come out. Like how you see yourself in your mind, you can start living that more and more, and gaining a better version of yourself that you're not normally, well, prior to this, you were having I'm just going to be blunt here, but it seemed to me like you were having a great deal of difficulty finding that on a consistent basis. You'd have wins, your sport, your extracurricular, your hobbies that you were saying, you would find wins there, but transferring them back into your personal life and didn't always translate consistently. Yet they were wins, and that got you feeling good about it. So it was highly effective. But you're having wins in your life without having to have these external things happen to you to enable you to be having these wins. And you're winning at the small game, and frankly, and more consistently, by the way. And that makes you more effective in all ways, because everybody looks for the massive change, and mind models are frickin' small and incremental, and they are that 2% shift that gives you 80% difference in your life when you apply them. It's like it takes the pressure off, it takes the load off, it causes you to deal with problems differently, more directly, less blow up, more, hey, this is a problem, can we talk? A type of issue, as opposed to, hey, that pisses me off, don't do that. And, type of thing. So your way of being is getting to that person you saw yourself as being and wanted to be again, and getting back to that. I'm going to just say it again, calmer, more lovable guy. And that's just it. And I see a big smile hit Rebecca's face when I said, and now giggles to boot. So I take it that was accurate. So at least from her perspective. And honestly, it just starts coming out in how you speak. You don't, I've never talked to you before, but I'm running through pre and post mind models, scenarios in my mind with you, and how you wouldn't engage because you'd be brewing inside and you'd be quietly stewing on something, and it would impact everybody around you and you even more. And now you're sharing that more comfortably and evaluating yourself more fairly and finding those things that you're doing effectively on a day-by-day basis. And that shift is huge, because you used to always find, like, this is where I say you're going to have to get this clearer in your own mind, because your transition point here is you're not always looking at what you do effectively. You're looking still for points of improvement. And I go, okay, look for them if you need to, but that's an old habit. I'd rather have you look for things that you're already being effective at and making those even more effective, and build on your strengths, not on your weaknesses, because you spent decades building on your weaknesses already. And at the end of the day, when you build on your weaknesses, all you wind up is having a whole bunch of really strong weaknesses. And that just gets you winding up being average or slightly above average. But you're not a slightly above average guy. You could be an excellent guy. And people who are extraordinary, they build on their strengths. And they figure out how to build their strengths so that they get around their weaknesses. I'm dyslexic. That's been my whole strategy. Once I figured out that I can actually put a bubble of effectiveness around my weakness, and choose not to worry about it, such as spelling. I am the world's worst speller, but I don't find it embarrassing anymore to misspell. I ask for help, or I just misspell it and tell people what I'm meaning. And if somebody feels they're compelled to correct my spelling, I take that gladly and just fit that in. But it doesn't slow me down, and I don't judge myself harshly for not being able to spell, which I used to beat the crap out of myself and put in hours upon hours upon hours. But my brain isn't wired for that. It's wired for other things that I do exceptionally well. So building on my strengths, identifying mind models, that's a strength of mine. Building on my effectiveness in communicating with people, being able to understand people, all of those things are strengths of mine that I can build and make happen. And that's huge. And I encourage you and everybody here that's listening to this to really start writing down a little quick tip. If you haven't taken this out of, I don't know if it's in the homework there or not, in Rewiring Your Mind for Wealth, but I think it is, but I'm not sure. Anyway, every day, write down 3 things that you did effectively that day. Not good, not bad, not right, not wrong, but effectively. And just write them down and start thinking about what caused those things to be effective for you. And if you're going to do one thing, pick one of those and ask yourself the question, how might I improve this one tomorrow? Even though it wasn't a thing that you did effectively. It's not about being bad and that you got to fix it. No, it's what might I do to cause this to make a little bit of an improvement. Okay, that's basically it. Okay. So what worked for you for that, and how, on a scale of 1 to 10, how effective was that for you?
Well, I know you shoot for an 8. I've heard that.
Yeah.
I have to say you're nailing on the head there. It was a 10.
Okay. Well, nuts. Damn.
It's hard to give an 8 when it's just so good.
Okay. Well, no, hey, just be honest, and that's fine. I screw up too, so I don't mind screwing up like that. But yeah, no, that was perfect.
I mean, what worked for me, I mean, you're absolutely right. I've spent years strengthening my weaknesses.
Yep.
Being in a place of judgment in my own head. And I do tend to beat myself up a lot.
Yes, you do.
And I think that is exactly what, like you said, that's where I found the mind model so effective. Is it's helping me switch that and change that dynamic and actually come out of my negative space. I do. You're absolutely right, though. I do need to focus more on my strengths and what I'm building, the things that I'm doing well, and focus on building those, because I tend to focus on the other.
Yes, you do. Way too much still.
Yeah.
But you're learning. This is an incremental game. It's not an instantaneous game. Okay. Mind models are meant to be learned incrementally.
Right.
And you get the best bang for your buck when you learn them incrementally, one chunk at a time. So, okay.
Awesome.
Super. Trevor, any last words? Because we're just going to wrap this one up for tonight. And
no, I think that was awesome. It's up in the air if we'll be doing it next week. I'll let you guys know via email or whatnot, depending on if Blair will have a reliable connection and time to do it next week. But we'll keep you in the loop. If anybody else was interested in the Mind Model Coach training, if you could let me know. I did write a couple names down here. We will be following up with people on that once we've got a few more things in place, like dates. Anything else you wanted to say about the Mind Model Coach training, Blair, to fill people in on sort of what it's about and maybe what the price point will be for this beta group?
Well, we're working at this one. The first one we're going to be doing is it's going to be, 50% off because it's the first one. I've got the content down and I've taught the content before, so that's not really the issue, but it is about getting everything else in place. So, and the location, we're probably going to be doing it. I got some interesting advice on that from people that do training. It's probably going to be either in San Diego or Austin, Texas. I'm technically leaning a little bit more towards San Diego. We have a client down there, so that would work very well for us. But just sharing that. The other sign of our thing here is, we're targeting right now, the full price one is going to be $15,000, but this first one is going to be half off, so $7,500. So that's what we're going to be doing. Just sharing with you. So you know.
And likely that'll be 8 full days of training split up into 2 different 4-day events.
Right. We're going to require you guys to come down with a gap of time in between. And the minimum gap that I will do is 3 weeks. And it might be, depending on my schedule, I'll have to get back and do that. But it doesn't work well. I've tried doing back-to-back weekends. I've tried doing it with 2 weeks, and 3 weeks tends to be the best. I'm going to not do it beyond like 7 weeks. I can do it up to 6 weeks, but 3 to 5 weeks tend to be the optimum area. 6 weeks is pushing it just for retention and practice. But you've got to integrate this stuff, and I'm going to be testing people on this as well. So there's going to be an actual test that I'll get into later and share that. So yeah, it does sound great. So yeah. Anyway, I'm a fast learner.
He was also saying any tips on figuring out strengths we can build on earlier.
Yeah, well, building on strengths real quick here is just ask yourself, what might I do differently to improve this strength of mine, this thing? What do I need? Do I need patience? Do I need, well, you know what? Come back to the next one. I'm sorry for making this one ambiguous, but the next one we have planned to do is really going to help you guys on how to start applying this. So I'll leave it on a cliffhanger to have you guys come on back, but it is one of the best ways that I've been able to figure this stuff out and leave that one so that, or get myself to figure out how to find more effective things. So it's a whole process to it. And we'll share that one next time we're together on the Blair Dunkley Experience. So I just want to thank you guys all for showing up this week, and we'll see you again real soon. Trevor, any final words for you?
Nope, that's it. See you guys either next week or the week after that.
And I hope it's next week. I'm going to try my very best. Okay. All right. You guys take care. Have a great night.
Thank you, Blair.
No problem.
Thank you, Trevor.
No problem.
Thank
We'll see you guys soon.
Yep. Bye for now.